Welcome everybody to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast, and in this video we're going to revisit the Godzilla Monarch franchise. So we're starting from 2014 all the way to Godzilla vs. Kong. Yeah, let's just get right into it, Dylan. What are your opening thoughts?
Well, I'm excited to see what Monarch's gonna bring for the future, but as far as the series so far, it's hit or miss, to be honest. I really love the first one. I think Gareth Edwards did an amazing job rebooting the franchise. Mm-hmm. I remember watching the trailer and just the imagery made it feel like it was like this like natural disaster movie. Yeah. It was so epic. And I can't remember if there was any like Godzilla content between or before 2014 movie recent. Probably the last one was like the 2000 movie with like the one in New York.
Well, Shin Godzilla was great. I love that.
That's right. I love that one too. Yeah, but I think that he did a great job rebooting the franchise, and I think the casting was really spot on. And I love that at the core of the story, because you know it's a monster movie, so of course you expect big fights and big spectacles. But I love that there was a very human element to it, because normally the humans tend to be annoying in these kinds of movies, but I think in the first one, especially with Aaron Taylor Johnson leading it, I think his character and his relationship with his father was like really endearing. Mm-hmm. And it kind of like motivated me to actually enjoy watching him throughout the movie. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the first one?
Yeah, first of all, Gareth Edwards, I'm a big fan of his. He just made The Creator. We're both big fans of that. You guys could check out our review for that. But yeah, I mean, they got him because he also directed this movie that not too people know about. It's called Monsters. And it's like this weird movie where these monsters like are around the planet and shit like that. But it was a really humanistic type of endearing story as well. And the creatures actually ended up being really beautiful with their bioluminescence. So I think he took elements from that and then applied it to 2014 Godzilla. I am like one of those people that I thought Godzilla 2014 was all right. It was a nice starter, but I'm one of those people where I don't know. It's really hard. It's like the Transformers issue where like Transformers, they show too many humans sometimes. With this, at least the characters feel like you give a shit about them. I just wish that we seen a little bit of more of Godzilla, but be careful what you wish for, because then later on they actually went balls to the walls, and I don't think they know like a great bit. I think they're kind of confused on how to balance it later on, where basically humans are OP as well, and I find that to be kind of ass. Like I like the idea of, and then that's how they set up the lore too. They have this lore where they're ancient and they've been around forever, and they are supposed to, be a part of Mother Nature and restore the balance. I thought that was an interesting concept, which none of that was in 2014 Godzilla. It was just straight up monster movie, but it had a human side, like trying to deal with it. And I don't know. Sometimes I felt like Aaron Taylor Johnson, like you could ask if you're in Home Depot and he's just there buying like a pipe or something, you say, I need help. And he's like, all right, let's go. Let me get my gear. And he helps. It's like, he's cool, but sometimes it's a little bit pushing it with the amount of access he has to military tech and stuff like that. And he could just go with it. So I felt like that was a little push and pull. It was like weird. But of course, that movie had great moments, like let them fight and stuff like that. The Mutos are a newly introduced Kaiju, if you will.
Didn't even talk about your favorite part, which is what we used to talk about in high school, is the Bryan Cranston.
And in high school, we used to always repeat after the trailer where Bryan Cranston's like, "You're lying. It wasn't a typhoon."
Typhoon.
Right, exactly.
I love that part.
No, that was good. Like, Bryan Cranston was great. At the beginning was really good too. I like because it's also cool to introduce this huge character that's easy to spot, but you do it through like a mystery. And I think for the most part, they kept it suspenseful and stuff. I liked that was the whole thing too. It was like Godzilla's roar. I'm mad because when I was in my theater, I don't know if it's just me. No, when I was at my theater though, I think the volume was too low, so I didn't get to enjoy it as much for the first time hearing it. And I was like, this shit's ass,
Shit.
But yeah,
well, they played it in the trailer too, didn't it?
They played it in a trailer. That was like, yeah, because he was like, and I remember the little Chinese balloon things, and they were like blowing, and he was like screaming there. That was cool. What did you think about his design too? Because that's like a big part of Godzilla.
It was different. It's hard to top whatever the last one is,
He got
especially
a
like
fat
the original
ass.
Toho ones.
He got a good ass.
Yeah,
he could grip it.
He put some pounds. He took some of that grain that you put in your video.
Yeah.
Shit. I didn't mind it, to be honest. It is kind of weird because they made him more aquatic. So like he's like chunky, but like apparently he can like swim really good. But I didn't mind it. Actually, the first time when we see him in the movie and he puts his foot down,
that was cool.
I love that they like held back showing him. Like you can always tell like when you see the scales, it's him too. I love that they like kind of withheld too. And also I love that in this movie they took it from the point of view of like scientists, because normally in Godzilla movie it's always like the military or like the civilians, but I love that they took it like from a research point, like as if there was actually like people researching like these animals or something. So I think it was unique to see it from their perspective, and it actually like made it more believable, as opposed to just like, oh yeah, he got radiation and got really big. But they made it like, oh, he's been this apex predator from the dawn of time, which I really enjoyed. But I liked his design overall. I mean, sometimes it looks a little too like dog faced when you do. Like,
he's so cute. I know.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
Like you want to pet him, and that's another thing. Like too, that I didn't like after the first one is that they made him too heroic. Like like
he needed a Captain America shield later on.
That's what I'm saying. Like he should be like a fucking Avenger at this point. Like he just comes with like when he's summoned. Like every time there's like a bad. Like I didn't like that they like kind of villainized some of the monsters. I know like some of them are like his villains in the older movies, but like I wanted them to treat Godzilla as if he was, a neutral character. Like he could stop these monsters, but he could also turn on the city like at a moment's glance. So it's like not like he has like any allies, because he's he's an animal. At the end of the day, like he shouldn't have like alliances with the humans. that's what made it like I had to suspend my disbelief. And then like they had the am I thinking of Kong when the little girl had that like mental or that connection.
Yeah, and then they both like did like they're like this, like a hand.
They're like this. It's like, you my homie. Like,
if he winks, I'll be like,
right. That kind of like was like not believable for me.
Yeah,
but
it is weird. Yeah. They could spin some bullshit, contrived thing about like, oh, they're bigger brains or something like that. I mean, I'm sure at one point Kong probably studied math or something when he was like on his island.
So big.
Yeah. I mean, they should get Godzilla to do a deal with Ukraine or some shit like that at this point. but yeah, I mean, again, the problem with these movies that I noticed is a lot of stuff is just too contrived. It's just like unnatural the way how they go about things, and everything is like super convenient until it's not, just for plot armor's sake. And so that's the problem that all these types of movies they will face. That's why I like Shin Godzilla a lot, because it was like a really devastating and type of cynical take on Godzilla in a way. Like there was so much death and stuff, but again, that Godzilla was the main threat, and we're used to seeing Godzilla. He's an animal, but we kind of see him as like this anti-hero just because everywhere he walks, he destroys. And so that sense is gone. Well, you have to put that in the back of your head, because if he's fighting, like, for example, Kong versus Godzilla, if they're fighting and they're crashing to a building, I could imagine some people are dying, right? So it's kind of weird to see them as like superheroes at that point. But I, at the end of the day, I think the first one had a message to say about like how he's also affecting, or how these kaiju are affecting the landscape that they're in, whereas the other ones are like more popcorn flicks, and I think that's okay. I mean, that's what sells the most money. That, even if it's kind of stupid, it's like, you're just there to have fun. Do I respect it? No, not really. But will I keep watching? Yes, because I'm having a hell of a time watching it. And the CGI isn't bad as well. Let me get you, speaking of that, so the next movie from the Monarch, because that's also like the shield of these superheroes. What did you think of Kong Skull Island?
Compared to Godzilla, it was pretty lackluster, to be honest. And maybe just because like I'm a little bit biased because I loved Peter Jackson's King Kong. I think that was like hands down like the best King Kong movie ever. Yeah, the CGI was okay, but it was like it wasn't really memorable for me. I mean, it had an interesting story, and yeah, we get more of like the history of Monarch, and then we get more of like the world building of the kaiju in this one. And King Kong's design itself, like he was like, yeah, he's like the exact opposite of Godzilla. He's like all fit and shit. Like he went to like Groot's gym or some shit.
We'll work it out.
He's eating like whey protein in his banana shakes and shit.
They're spotting each
bulky
other.
as shit, right? I thought some of the creature designs were cool though, like
The skull,
those
whatever
lizard things. Yeah, it's actually interesting. I think that this world, like they're building new types of kaiju, and like with the Mutos in a Godzilla. So because they kind of they're bringing back some of the old Toho monsters, but they're like building some new ones too, which I think is really interesting. What were your thoughts on Kong?
Yeah, I mean, he's a lot bigger. I think a lot of people got the sense that, well, yeah. Oh, and then plus they mentioned Monarch too, so of course it's in the same universe. The director was going to direct a Metal Gear Solid movie with Oscar Isaac. I don't know what's happening with that, so good luck to him. I hope it's good. Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't as good. I think the problem is they're tackling two different beasts, and with that, they're also tackling two different types of movies. Whereas the first one is really suspenseful and it's actually kind of frightening. The second one, or Kong Sky Island, was completely different. It was just like this action movie. I mean, you even have like these kick-ass soldiers, and the cast for the most part I thought was pretty funny. You had Brie Larson as well. You had Tom Hiddleston.
All Marvel picks.
Yeah, he had Marvel picks.
That motherfucker should have been an Avenger. He got Loki, Captain Marvel, and Nick Fury in one movie.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I forgot Samuel Jackson was there. Yeah, he was like bad or something. Oh yeah, I remember that was so badass though. There were some. I think the imagery in Kong Sky Island are worth just screen capping. And it definitely seemed like they could be in a poster, like especially when Nick Fury was like looking at like this fiery thing. It was awesome. The action sequences too, I think, were pretty good. The CGI though wasn't as good, I believe, as sometimes you notice it when it's bad. I think the skull creatures kind of looked like in depth when you look. It looks pretty good, but for the most part, the CGI was like whatever. And of course, that leads to Kong, I was to say Kong, King of Monsters, Godzilla, King of Monsters. That one was where they really went balls to the walls with like the sci-fi techie stuff. It was huge. And I think, to be honest with you, it was like one of the most funnest movies also to watch. What are your thoughts on that?
I had a good time watching that movie. So that's where we get reintroduced to King Ghidorah, which is like, the most iconic Godzilla villain. And I loved how they brought him back. It made him seem like such a counter to Godzilla. Like this, like Godzilla's like a typhoon, but like King Ghidorah is like a hurricane or like this huge like electrical storm. And I love how they played with like his powers too. I thought that was so cool. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Mothra in this movie too?
Yes. Yeah, that was cute.
I remember Rodan was in the first one, and then Mothra was in the second one. I always hate when they do team ups, to be honest. It's so corny. It's like Marvel crossover event or some shit.
Right.
It's like what the fuck Mothra's gonna do? He's just gonna fly around and like, yeah, that's literally what he's gonna fucking fly around and then maybe shoot some like silk webs or some shit.
Yeah.
Like nut over King Ghidorah or some shit.
Well, they're lovers, apparently. I didn't know that. They have like a romantic connection or something.
Oh, of course. They had to throw that in there, right? But I thought for the most part it was alright. I mean, the CGI was pretty good for that one. I did like the fight sequences between Godzilla and King Ghidorah. I thought they were better actually than what was it? Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh, really?
Okay. I thought it was better in this one than that one.
Yeah, I mean, the main villain is absolutely terrifying. I think that ship that the humans had, was like pretty cool, the flying thing. But of course, highly unrealistic. I like seeing all of the other Toho classics there, although they weren't really used much. But it still was kind of cool to see. I did like how they kind of redesigned them like to match Mother Nature elements, especially like the volcano thing. That was kind of cool. And of course, they have like I like the emphasis on the devastating impact they can have on nature, whilst at the same time, there's something rejuvenating, which I actually find that's the contrived part. That's completely bullshit. You can't tell me that Rodan or whatever his name is like, ee! And he's like flying and like burning everything. And it's like, oh, plants, look, so many plants afterwards. Like, here, okay. Right. Like, that's not true. But it is cool, though. It's an interesting concept. And of course, these type of movies, nevertheless, you still have to suspend your disbelief. So but was it like epic? Yes, absolutely. And I think that's where we go to. I think you could kind of mix this with Fast and Furious. Like it kind of reminds me of Fast and Furious. You know, it's like all in the same type of field. And then of course now we have Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong. That was an epic movie. Not gonna lie, I actually liked that movie a lot. I had a blast with that movie. CGI wasn't as good. Let me get your thoughts on that.
I remember the marketing for that was like so hype.
Yeah,
they set that shit up like it was like a Mike Tyson match or some shit.
yeah,
It was cool though. I did enjoy it. I thought the introduction of Mechagodzilla actually hindered it as a movie. Because I knew for a long time that Mechagodzilla was kind of like gonna be another threat like King Ghidorah that was gonna be leading up because he's one of his biggest foes. But I thought how they threw it in there was kind of weak, to be honest. I think I wanted it more to be about Kong and Godzilla's relationship because they're two of the biggest apex predators. So I think and I didn't even like Mechagodzilla's design, to be honest. It looked like some Hasbro exclusive. It was just like really weird. I always preferred the original or not even the original, like one of the older ones where he looks like kind of like this mecha like suit or some shit.
right.
And he looks like more like dinosaur-y. So and then the human element too. That I feel like after was it King of the Monsters, I think like the human element just kind of started to annoy me a little bit. Like even that little eco-terrorist group led by Charles Dance, I thought was like so annoying at times. So they kind of lost me with like some of the side characters as the series progressed. But let's get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's where the humans really interfere too much, and it's kids, and then it's like, what a cornball of a movie when you're doing stuff like that. I say, come on. But then that's where you start to realize that okay, they're not taking it that serious. Like it doesn't really feel like the stakes are there at all. Although they did have me with the Kong stuff because they were getting the hell beat out of them. That's why I enjoyed that because he was like Mechagodzilla was like, oh shit, a contender. So they did had me at one point, but through the whole movie, it didn't feel like there were really stakes, and the whole inverted plane or the inverted island that they were at was a unique concept, and at least it's a nice ending for Kong. Albeit it's like, well, how is he going to interact now with Godzilla? Like, is he just gonna creep up every now and then and just like fight whenever?
Yeah, they're just gonna make like some Gaza Strip in the ocean, and they just can't cross it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some border.
Yeah, or maybe they could put like a ladder for him to climb. That's a long ladder, or like an elevator. Yeah, I mean, and this is where you really have to suspend your disbelief because the technology in this was highly advanced and just super unrealistic. Again. We're talking about like a huge dog, lizard, fish versus a monkey, right? But still, you still have to try your best to make it believable. And I think that all went out the window with this movie. But nevertheless, great, like fun watch. I think this was one of the first movies to also release straight to streaming as well because of the pandemic. Right. So they released to HBO.
I remember, yeah.
Or HBO Max at the time.
HBO Max, yeah.
Yeah. So that was just to see it at home, I think was even more enjoyable. Just watching this huge epic. It was like so weird to see this exclusively streaming thing. And it's like, oh my God. And it's like absolutely. And also it felt like sometimes it just felt like a little too long sometimes, like the pacing wise, especially with the human parts. It was like, okay, get it over with.
It dragged on a little bit too much. Yeah. And I feel like I felt like some of the fights got cut short because of that.
Yes.
The one where Kong was like on the ship and he was like fighting like a Godzilla in the water.
Yeah,
I feel like that got short. Like even their main fight, like it was just like one of them. It's like, oh okay, well now we got Mechagodzilla, we got to fight him now. So it was like I didn't even have time to like really enjoy the fights between Kong and Godzilla. So I think that's like where it like got hindered.
Yeah, and even the main villain wasn't that good either. I mean, really the main villain was Walter Simmons, but nobody remembers that. Everybody just remembers Mechagodzilla. And then the thing is too, then all you would remember from that movie is just the end. A little bit of the boat sequence or the ship sequence. So for the most part, I think the majority of the movie is a forgettable experience. So I would hope in the future they would really reflect and think, okay, well, these parts are memorable, then we should probably have more of that rather than keeping the unmemorable parts I think they should do that, or unless they want to get serious again. But we do have Godzilla. I believe what's the new movie called? It's like Godzilla. What is this? Like Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. So I think maybe Godzilla's going to go down to that new plane that where Kong's at, because I did see there's like a bad monkey in town. So that's pretty interesting. That's gonna be I don't know.
I have a feeling, and I feel like they're gonna start this with the Apple TV series. I think we're gonna get Godzilla's son eventually. I think Godzilla is actually gonna die, maybe perhaps in his next movie, and then like his son, because he did have a son in the old movies too. So maybe it's like his son, and they kind of like, I hate to say it, like train him like that. What was that shark in the Meg? Like they put him in a playpen, and then they have a clicker, and they're like, "Here, boy." Here. I feel like they're gonna do that route. It's gonna be so fucking corny, but it could be interesting too.
Yeah, that's true. That is a character that's like one of those like characters that I could see them bringing back. Or Godzilla could you get they could train him like a Creed. And it's like
they like, give him like gloves or something.
It's like this empowering music.
They give him like a jacket or shit.
Right. He fights the Russian guy again. Just by himself. Yeah, that's a good theory. That's a good theory, but then I'm like wondering, are they gonna go for that much, or are they gonna play? Because I feel like these movies now they play it really safe. Like again, there's a lot of shit happening, but for the most part they play it safe. Well, they don't play it safe also with the human characters, at least, because I remember what's his name, Ken Watanabe's character died, which I hated that. Because the whole thing they did was like a completely stupid decision they made in Godzilla King of Monsters. So I felt like Godzilla versus Kong completely played it safe. So I wonder if this one they're gonna completely play it safe too. And it does suck too. I mean, again, I don't understand. Like, I like Millie Bobby Brown as an actress, but her character is like, why are you there?
Unnecessary. Totally unnecessary.
A lot of stuff's unnecessary. Like, all these people, you don't got to be there. I don't know, like, why. You know, we should care for these monsters. If you anyway are adding some humanity to them, we should care enough for these monsters that then there are stakes. It's kind of like, that's why I look at it. I mentioned Creed, because it's like, well, at the end of the day, if you kind of think about it, it's like Creed fighting somebody. There's like a build up to it, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, what could you do? Like, they need to come up with more ideas.
Well, it's like Jurassic Park too. It's like they have a tendency to like they bring in like the family friendly element into it, but sometimes it gets overshined by like these giant fights. So it's like you don't really care about like this little girl, or the scientist or whatever, because all you're really going there to see is just like these giant monster fights. So it's like, give me more of that, you know?
Yeah, they really, I think they have to make it, which I doubt they're going to, because anyway, I think these movies do really great in the box office. And so if it does great in the box office, again, you make people listen with your wallet. So, but I definitely think that it's probably going to stay the same. I would say realistically, they would have to choose like what do they really want to do? And are these movies really memorable? Because the funny thing is, what's the most memorable? Probably Godzilla 2014, if you think about it. But the reason is because this is the whole thing that started everything. I wonder if Kong came first and then Godzilla. I wonder like what will be more memorable as well.
I'd say Godzilla 2014 was probably the best film out of the series. Yeah. Everything else just feels like a movie. Yeah, like you just go there and you just you have a good time. You watch these big spectacles, right? But you don't really leave it doesn't leave like a lasting impression on you. It's like I could easily just watch like an older Godzilla movie and have the same feeling, right? Or it's basically the same plot, strung up together. Just you add like some modern elements to it. But I feel like 2014 Godzilla, I think I remember it more because it was a good story, and also it was a great reintroduction of the Monsterverse. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe they need to pull from that more, or just bring fucking Garrett Edwards back and make him do all this shit.
Well, I would hate now that we've seen so much. I would hate that he's gonna play peekaboo with Godzilla and the rest of the monsters. Like, oh, let me show their toes. Suspenseful. I would hate that. I kind of want to see now. Like, once the cat's out the bag, you kind of have to just slap it around a bit and let it go wild to make a good show. But yeah, I mean, Well, we will see. We are going to review, at the time of this video, we're going to also review the new Monarch series, Monarch Legacy of Monsters or whatever, with Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell, I believe his name is. So I think all the episodes are going to release for that in one day. I hope so, at least for our sake. So let's see how that is. I think they're going to try to take a serious approach, and that's going to span between, I believe, the 1970s or so to current days. And that's an interesting story structure. So I wonder how they're going to approach that. I mean, maybe we'll get some information on, who knows, maybe Godzilla does have some child, or there's like some theory about that, and that could lead way into later on or something. It's kind of a prequel. So, well, what are your final thoughts on this franchise thus far?
Not too memorable, to be honest with you. It's like another blockbuster spectacle, but I feel like they don't put enough heart into it, and I feel like it's another thing where like they're taking such a iconic franchise and kind of just like cashing in. Some of them were hit and misses, some of them were like really good. Like I said, I love the first one. I still remember the first one really well, and I think the human element in that wasn't or was treated better than the sequels that came after it. That's why I'm hoping maybe with the Apple TV series, we spend a little more time getting to know Monarch, its origins, and how it started out. I actually think is actually an interesting addition to the Godzilla universe. I've never seen like a research team like in the Godzilla universe before, so that could be really interesting, and seeing like how the other monsters like affect this world building, I guess, as well. But overall, yeah, I'd say like I wasn't too impressed with the franchise as a whole. I think there's too many weaker movies than others for me to really enjoy them. But for the most part, they are popcorn flicks, and I'll probably still watch them if they decide to keep putting out more movies. But how about you, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, again, these movies are just popcorn flicks at the end of the day. I think they're kind of self-aware, where they know, like, I think there's a lot more to these movies, in a sense of story too. I think they have certain quotas, or from their research team and stuff like that over at the studios. They're like thinking, well, let's show this percentage of this and this and this to meet some quota. I always feel like that. I feel like it's kind of unorganic, the way that they try to approach these stories, at least later on. And the art is kind of extracted from that, unfortunately. So we're just left with the spectacle. That is great to see. And in another form, I mean, you can admire the CGI if that's your thing, right? Because that's a form of art too. It takes time to do that. So, and I can only imagine, oh my gosh, the countless of hours of doing that. It's crazy. Maybe for the next movie, Kong could team up with his boys, Optimus Primal and Gorilla Grodd, and they could fuck up shit, you know?
Cheetor.
They could get Rhinox in there. And maybe the G.I. Joe could show up a little bit later on.
Now I know I heard it.
Yeah, so... Well, I don't know. I mean, whether you're a fan of old Godzilla or new Godzilla, at least we're eating good at the end of the year 2023.
Eating better than Godzilla.
Eating better than Godzilla, because all he eats is rocks. So we got a lot of good, juicy Godzilla content in the future. But with that said, this is our Revisited for the Godzilla Monarch franchise Revisited. If you guys like this video, actually like this video, please, and check out our other reviews in the description down below. We are doing plenty of stuff. The year's almost ending, but fear not, we have a lot of content coming your way, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching this video. Dylan, please take us away.
For sure, guys. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment below. What do you think we'll see for the new Monarch series, and where do you think the Godzilla franchise will go from here? But yeah, let us know what you think. Enjoy some of our other revisits as well, because we do plenty of revisits for some of the franchise that we've enjoyed that we haven't got a chance to touch on in the past. So if you enjoyed this, definitely check out our playlist. But thank you so much, and until then, thanks for having lunch with us.
See you guys.